I think it's an interesting approach. What it tries to do is to make sure that you're bringing to the heart of the solution that you're seeking the appropriate level of need for both the business, the technology, and the users. So what you're trying to do is get the right amount for each. The individual challenges are for the users. Users are you can't. It's not just about directly asking them. You also have to spend time with them to notice how their responses, how their physical responses vary from their actual responses, and that helps you explore deeper what might be possible. The technology, I always think, is a bit like the porridge and the three bears. You can have too little technology, too much, or just the right amount. I meet very few technologists who do too little, a small number that do the right amount, and most want to actually do, frankly, too much. So the challenge is, how do you pull it back? Because they're proud of their technology and they've put a lot of effort into developing the ability to deliver it, which is fine. But the question is, how do you pull it back to the core piece that's really going to make a difference for somebody? So instead of giving them 20 features, you give them 5, but they're 5 that really have a big impact on them. The triple lens has 3 components to it. First is technology. It's the ability to actually do something for somebody. The challenge almost is that the technology has outstripped what the users might be able to think of doing. So that brings us to the second piece, is the users. So you try and spend time with them to understand which part of the technology will make the biggest impact. And then the third piece is you've got to be able to make the thing. You've got to be able to produce it for a budget and a schedule, and then you've got to make money off it long term. So the budget has an internal and an external component to it. In my experience, there's an awful lot of push. There's very small amounts of pull. I would love to get it to the point where we could actually try and see, is there a natural balance between it? I frankly think that the pull is more important, but I understand why it's not as strong as it could be. I think if you like where we are, I think it's more like we're 90-10 push versus pull, or 80 or 95-5. We should be maybe 80-20, and that would be a fairer way to sort of balance things out. They kind of came about because different clients were asking us different starting points, and when we kind of analysed them, it came down to they either wanted to do a project to see whether this innovation stuff was any use, or they thought maybe we'll look at our strategies and see are we picking the right one, or they were thinking our culture is really stiff, we need to start on that. The quickest thing to do is to do a project. A little bit longer and a little bit deeper is to do some strategy work. Interestingly, the working on the organization culture, it's the one that takes the most effort, but it gives you the longest results, because that way you actually can sustain the new things coming in. Increasingly, what's happening is people are moving away from doing an individual project. They actually want to address the strategy issue first. They want to know, what are we going to do? Where are we going to do it? What kinds of things might emerge out of it? And I think it's a much better space, because they're moving into the position where they're actually assessing what are they going to need for the whole program, the total cost of ownership, if you like, or the total life cycle of the program, as opposed to just doing a project and giving everyone t-shirts. It's an interesting space, because some of them are more attractive. Finding a new feature or developing a new capability is inherently more attractive to those of us with technical backgrounds. The challenge is that it's the whole of the organization that has to put the thing in place. And if you get out of balance, so your technical people are outstripping the ability of the rest of the organization to actually deliver something. If, for example, finance don't have the processes for handling one-off purchases, or distribution can't actually figure out how to deliver something that isn't standard, or sales aren't selling it because it's not in the commission structure. These are the things that hold you up. So you need, for want of a terrible phrase, you need a holistic structure which goes across the breadth of those items and makes sure that you get a rounded delivery mechanism for these different items. Part of the challenge is even down to sort of standard things like finance meetings, where you're perhaps assessing budgets for projects. If you end up with operations budgets and innovation project budgets in the same window, the innovation projects are going to lose out, because they're inherently riskier. So even though they're much smaller, it looks a much safer bet to go with the ops projects. So you have to compartment and regulate stuff so that you can assess it properly and deal with it in the right areas. I'd boil it down to two or three questions before they even start an innovation program. I'd say, should you do any of this? First of all, are you ready to do it? Secondly, I would say, what's the whole program look like and what capacity have you got for it? And then everything that follows should be within that. So if you can do 3 €10,000 projects this year in a 6-month period from May onwards, then target everything around something like that. Don't go out and get 200 ideas from your staff and your customers and then realize you're going to disappoint 197 originators. So make whatever size it is, make it appropriate to the need and just deliver on that. So what we're aiming to get across is an impression that you should be aiming for a repeatable, manageable, almost tedious innovation management process that just repeats itself year after year. And you will drop things into that as they come up, and as you get a chance to learn how to do it, you can begin to expand it if it makes sense. But the whole thing should be a repeatable, manageable, structured process that allows you to deliver what you're hoping to deliver or test.